Welcome back to Wickerson Studios. I am continuing with this Lambda, actually one-liner for ghPython nodes for Grasshopper in the 3D Rhino environment, and I am moving on from all of my earlier scripts into basic intermediate scripts with the ghPython nodes, focused on list comprehension, and I'm going to go through finding words, an example of finding words, reading a file, and returning using the lambda and map functions, returning that to the calling environment. I'm going to try and make sense of that. So let's just pull this whole thing over here. Let's click on here, and you'll see the first one's fairly simple. So here's a little script that's going there, and I just typed an old crazy poem I wrote as a kid. She's an odd little diddle in a big brown fiddle. Yada da 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 da. I'll let you enjoy that. And basically, the one-liner creates a list of words. You can see the list is being boxed here of more than 4 letters because I've got hard-coded in 4, and I'm looking at the length of the line being split. And then it creates a list separated by new lines because I split that poem again by new lines. And that will, while running it, test. You see exactly what's generated. It takes She's an Odd Little Diddle in a Big Brown, puts it in its own list within the bigger list, and it takes fiddle, and when she's tuned to play, the kids will. And then so you see how this is used to format or to write or get control of your text. So I'll let you figure that one out. Pretty exciting. Jump in, join my Patreon. I'm doing an awful lot of work for peanuts and maybe a coffee, but any support would really keep me moving. And I'm going to process this book. We're probably 10% of the way through it. That's the one-liners by the ghPython book. I'm trying to customize these scripts into my own kind of creative nodes and user objects in Python. And you can see that I've done that pretty well so far. I'll hit OK here, and you see I've got quite a few going. I've got a lot of basics going, and now I'm getting into the basic intermediate, and I'll do a section on intermediate, advanced, and advanced. So the next one is here, and this one's interesting because you actually have to, we take a look at this one, if you do it this way, I'll show you exactly what's happening in this script. I've written it 2 different ways, and I've outputted it twice. Basically, I have a file, and I've used the parametric params of the file path, and I brought in from where I've hidden program files, Rhino 7 systems. Then I can put any Py file I've written. Of course, I've had to write that file, and here is that file, I believe. And it's pretty simple. There is it being shown in text or whatever this is. You can use any, I think I used idle in another one. But basically, I wrote this file. File name equals read file default. It's py file. That's the code. And then here's what the code is. What that write file does is it jumps into that thing and reads that file. So in activating it, and I've used hard-coded here, file is going directly to that file. You can see that this file is not even necessary. If I pull this out, I don't even need X in there. But now it's trying to interpret what that X line was. So if I comment that out and run it, you're going to see I could still run it from just referencing in what directory this file is. And that will strip it, and it will add a line to it, and that's exactly what it's doing. It's making a list, and it's stripping each one into its own, every single item in here that was written on this document. If we take a look, file name, through to here, this is the code. That will break after that. Then it will say there's a space. So it tells me there's a space. It might be easier if I brought this into another kind of form, but it's kind of hard to see. Yeah, if I brought it right down. Well, it's hard to see either way. But it's basically separated thing by lines. So you've got, and I have to leave it up, but it always disappears when I do that. So it takes this as one item, blank is another item, this is another item, this is another one. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and you've got 1, 2, you got to watch those little empty space strings, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in your tool. And then if you actually go back and make this one work, you'll have to plug in that X tool, and I can take out this one, which is exciting, and run it, and you'll see it's just running the one from the X. So if I want to run both, I'll just take out the comment and I'll run both. And there you go. Pretty simple, but finally getting my head around, how to grab my Python files, how to read them, how to bring them in, how to do things with them. And actually it's just kind of treating it in my mind like a text doc and having some fun reading it, but it has to read it as a open that file. Anyway, still wrapping my head around it, but I enjoy it. And then the last one's pretty exciting. I use the simple phrase of the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Be sure you use the S in jumps, otherwise you don't have every letter in the alphabet. Some people say the quick brown fox jump. The quick brown fox jump. I can't remember how it used to be without the S, but jumps over the lazy dog, has all the letters. All right. What this is a very interesting script, and I've taken it and written it in two ways, so you'll see it written twice. This is using the the compiling of it into a one-liner, and I've done two checks on it. So I have a check 1 and a check 2, and you can play around with these really nice one-liners. So initially, it's going to take this data. It will use the map function. The check 1, or just check, is mapping the lambda. And you see it's not checking into a boxed list, which is what I do in check 2, but I'm mapping lambda s to this tuple of true s if it jumps is in it, else it'll be false, and then you're looking at the text. And that's saying, okay, take that first line that's in there, because I'm basically going through each of the lines of that, and saying, is it in line 1? No. Is it in line 2? Yes. Is it in line 3? No. So I did down here the same thing. I did it with list comprehension, which they asked you in the book to do and try, and then you go to the end of the chapter, they give you the example. Check 2 is basically putting it directly in, so you don't have to for S in text. That's going to be included in a sense that I think it gets a little smaller. Actually, the script gets a little smaller, so the smaller is better. So if we can use list comprehension, you can see we can go in and use the same data without lambda and without map, and we do the exact same thing. Check if quick is in here. So I would prefer this one over top of the other one because it's a shorter script, and you don't have to actually have an understanding of lambda or map. But then again, this is about getting better and better at the lambda functions, these one-time kind of functions to use them. So I'll keep going, and lambda functions are anonymous functions. Their anonymous functions don't have a name, and functions are objects in Python. So you might want to add those 3 comments to there so you understand what lambda actually is. Maybe I'll type those in there just at the end of this just to make a little sense. Let's do that. And it's in the text, so I think it's important information. Lambda functions are anonymous functions. Sorry for this, I should have done it before. The second point is anonymous, in case you didn't know. Functions don't have a name. And the last one will be functions are objects, which is good to know because object-oriented programming in Python. So I'll just leave those 3 in there so you kind of keep sense. I'll save that, but of course it's not going to be saved to here. It's just in this script if you're interested in downloading list comprehension reading file, I called it. I probably should call it more than reading file. I think I will. I think I'll just call it, let's hit OK, and let's file, save, and then file, save as. We'll also call this one reading file 5, and we'll take that from not just reading, we'll do reading. What were the other things we're doing? It would just call it reading, lambda, and map. And that'll just come up as another one within the GitHub site that I'm looking at. So hopefully you find that helpful. A little bit of droning on a little bit, but this is the stuff that's going a little bit beyond the basic, getting more into the intermediate. You want to keep wrapping your head around this and keep understanding list comprehension. Thanks very much for watching.